And we're live. Hey, everybody. How you guys doing? Marissa, Lake, Tanya. How do I say that? Is it Loey?
I think it's Lowy.
Am I pronouncing that right? I saw her or seen comments. Guess we don't ever see each other really. But on a thread, and I was like, how do you say that? So, how's everybody doing tonight? I was not really that great about getting the link out on YouTube. Were you able to?
Yeah, I did it. I added everybody in my Discord
Oh, okay,
at
cool.
the little @ sign. That's my when I go on Facebook, it seems like I get like one like every time I do true crime stuff, but it'll get bigger maybe.
Yeah, it takes time. It like, hey Nick, how are ya? It takes time to I don't know. It's slow. It seems
Yeah.
like
Also I wanted to start posting stuff on Reddit, but that's a whole nother world too. Like they delete stuff. It has to be so perfect or something.
yeah, I don't even try. I wouldn't even know where to I think I have before and I don't have a clue how to get back to even what I said. So
Yeah,
I have no clue what I'm doing on there.
yeah.
It's really bothering me. I'm gonna just turn that off because it's really annoying. But yeah, Twitter wears me out. I get so overwhelmed by it.
You do the Twitter.
Yeah, because I do a podcast. Well, I've been taking a break from it so that's why I've been kind of on here because the editing and just it takes so much time and I don't have it right now. So
Right.
on Twitter, I'm in a bunch of different groups with other podcasters. And so we all just kind of chat and like try to help each other out and just kind of work together. That's kind of what it's all about is like good people, not there's some that I won't work with, but like good people working
Mhm.
together to like solve cases, and that seems to be what you're all about. And so I'm glad you joined me today.
Yeah, thank you for. I'm so happy to be here because I I really try to branch out to the lesser known cases, and I know that's what you're all about too. It'd be a
It
cool time, get a little learn
is.
learn a little bit here.
That's what I like to cover. There's so many channels that cover Delphi, and even though I live here and I follow it really, really closely and have since day one. Um, I don't know. There's just something about it I don't even know how to describe it. I don't mind going on other people's channel and talking about it. But even the episodes I did about Garrett Kurtz, because I mean, I've anally covered Nicole Bowen and Ray Hainish. And so, of course, I know about the connection with him and Delphi. But it was really hard for me to even do the deliberating, him as the Delphi killer of like, what are the pros and cons of him? But the case is very, very important to me. And I hope it's solved really soon. And I
Right.
appreciate you keeping it out there. It's important.
Thank
Heinous
you.
murder
Yeah.
should not go unsolved like that.
Were you kind of battling like you didn't want to give Kurtz any attention, or was it like just the Delphi crowd, how it can be so toxic or whatever? Like, what are you kind of, or is it just the fact that it's covered so much? Kind of a
Hey,
combination.
musical cases. Try to say hi to people as they come in. I don't mean to
Yeah,
interrupt you, but
that's okay.
yeah,
It's so cool to see everyone. Yeah, a lot of cool, awesome people here.
no, there really are. It's such a welcoming community, and I love that. With I think for me, there's something I can't. It's hard for me to describe because my daughters were their age. Um, One is now, and my oldest was then. And my daughter looks so much like Libby. Everything they say about Libby, I'm like, check, that's my child. The way they're built, just the way they protected others, like everything about it. And her best friend at that time was this cute little redhead, and
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah. And so that case is just it's almost, I feel like it's I don't feel right talking about it in the public or like on my own channel to where I would like cover it actively. If that It's weird. I'm a weirdo. I
Oh,
love
no,
going
yeah, it makes
to
sense.
other channels, and I'd totally love to come on yours. I think we set something up, didn't we?
Yeah, that would, if we, yeah, maybe this coming Saturday, this weekend, we can have you on, and that would be a really cool episode.
Yeah, there's a lot to it, and there's so much that's gone. I'm blessed with dyslexia, which I never thought I would say was a blessing, but it really is because I never realized how many other things that I got in place of just normal learning that I can memorize photographs. And so once it's in my head in an image, I can just recall it like that. And so I know all of these Delphi names and places and events that like are just kind of cataloged in
Wow.
there. If you ask me to find the actual screenshot or information in my 30,000 like
Yeah,
photos, good luck. But it's all up here in this. It's crazy. I never knew that I had that gift
that is
until
super cool.
I started doing this. I mean, I never even took a screen. I didn't even know what a screenshot was before, 2017. I didn't know how to screen record, nothing. I never got on social
Yeah,
media. I never had been on YouTube except to learn how to be like a doctor. Like I wanted to know everything about medicine. That's the only thing I used it for. So
wow. It's so easy for people to, it's like so easy to see stuff as a problem, but really that's like a huge pro, being able to see stuff a certain way and remember things. It's like it's a
right.
cool mind. Like there's some people who can look at a desk and then in their own mind they see also like the stuff inside of the desk and the drawers. Like just a weird mind like that is so cool. Reminds
Right.
me of that.
You remember those Rolodexes? Have you ever had a roll with index cards, like a roll like
I've
index
seen them,
card?
but I never had one. Yeah.
That's what I picture in my head, and that when I just flip through it.
Oh
Yeah.
man,
I wouldn't say
that's badass.
it's not a photographic memory or anything. I really do think it's linked with the dyslexia. But I never knew that I could do that, and I'd watched a documentary, and it really just, like, opened my mind to we're programmed to believe certain things as we're
Right,
in school because it's standardized learning and, like, you're stupid if you can't do it the way that they teach you how to do it, and I couldn't. I mean, I worked my ass off to get A's. It definitely didn't
right.
come naturally, so,
So, are you in medicine, or
nope.
you just learned a lot about it?
Yeah, my daughter was diagnosed with a genetic syndrome, and it's pretty serious. And so I am I'm the same in true crime as I am in my real life. Like I was the nerd at the library with a list of questions, kind of a person. Like I had to know everything about everything, and I'm like all crooked, and I don't know what I'm doing. Everything about everything.
Yeah.
I could not. So I would just write. If I thought of something, I wrote it down. So when she was diagnosed, I attacked it just like I do these cases, very anally.
Yeah, well, that's you got your own like brand to your show, and I love it. Everyone does. It's a good show. So
Yeah, it's not something that I'm going to do like weekly, or I try not to get too absorbed in it. And I do a lot behind the scenes for families that I would never put on here. That's not what it's
never
about for
talk
me.
about.
Mm.
Yeah, I want to get more into that. I want being able to doing something nice for somebody. It does. You don't have to show it to everyone. That takes to me. It takes it away like almost completely because you're trying to get some fame or some pat on the back or whatever.
Right. Exactly, and that's why it's like it's a constant struggle, because I know how much work it takes to do this. It
Yeah, and it's such a blurry line. Like I'm sorry, certain shows where like Gray Hughes, I watch Gray Hughes, and he goes every single day, like every day, and I'm like, damn, that's takes.
All
I
right.
wonder what it takes because I know, the behind the scenes. It's like, geez, what does someone do to do
Oh
that?
my god. I know that I'm not that great, but hey, Annie, Watcher, AJ, nice of you guys to come. We're just kind of
Yeah, it
chit
is.
chatting. Sharon, there's Sharon and Annie. Yay. But yeah, like it is hours and hours and hours of research, writing, reference. I write my own scripts usually. And so, by the time you get thumbnails and I use my own work and I put all the references in and like I write it all myself. I mean, it takes a long ass time. And
Yeah. Do you like sit there and type it out, or do you use a voice recorder to text or anything? Like you
I've
do.
been trying voice recorder. It ends up saying all kinds of weird stuff that I'm talking weird. Like my voice is perverted.
Yeah, that I
I did not say that.
yeah, that not always accurate there.
Yeah, and so yeah, mostly just type.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
tried to do it once, the voice to text, but I never even finished it. But I just thought writing it out just sounds, yeah, like so much work.
yeah, I'm not a grifter. Thank you, Nick. Thank you for acknowledging.
Yeah, Mel doesn't grift. Is that an adverb, grift?
Grifter. It's a slang term for con man or
Like
just
a,
like
yeah, a con artist or whatever.
or something like that. But
That's
it's
part of why I'm trying to go every day too and get like these wonderful people gave me money for this, and I'm like, okay, well, let's get more serious and learn more and try to do better. And
I know. I see you have my same. I think it looks like my same microphone and pop filter.
really,
Yeah.
that's bad. Yeah,
Well, it's not here tonight because I'm in another room. But yeah,
it works. It works a lot better than the headset. That's for sure.
yeah, I think so. The headset makes me feel like I can't. It gives me ear problems really bad. Like I can't hardly wear them. So and that's a big problem with the podcast. You have to wear headphones in order to accurately edit the audio. But I
Mm.
hate it. It hurts my ears so bad. Like it feels like it's sucking out the insides of my ears.
Yeah, you have to get the triple support system thing. I don't know. Makes you sweaty. Either way, there's always
I
something
think it's
happening.
the pressure. I'm very, very sensitive. I got a lot of like sensory issues. And so I think it's just the me. I'm just
Right.
I'm just a
Yeah.
weirdo. But I like
They,
it.
I've seen people use earbuds, but I haven't done it yet. Probably the same thing if you have sent might feel weird in your ears.
It does. The
Yeah.
earbud, everything feels weird when I don't even wear jewelry. That's how like sensitive I am. I don't like things like tied around my neck or jangling or
Oh
you know.
yeah.
But yeah, I think I really respect Gray. I mean, I know he can be mean sometimes and you know, but it's every day he's on there and I think that, you know, making money so that you can give money and be a team with him. I donate when I can to his show. I try to at once a month. This lately it hasn't it's been as consistent with jobs and stuff, but
Yeah.
um
Hear you
I,
there.
I
Yeah.
respect that. I mean, almost $30,000 in 1 year. And it's a we thing, it's his subscribers. And I respect the hell out of that. And I think if you are given a gift in life, giving back is the my aunt just died, and that's why I'm kind of flustered and not all professional like I usually am or try to
No,
be. Sometimes I get a
I'm
little
sorry
crazy.
now.
I got a temper on me and I know it. Sometimes I just need to whoop. But some
Same
things
here.
are worth
Every once in a while.
some things are worth giving an F about. And so they're worth, going all full drama. When someone hurts people, I can let a lot of stuff go, but when I don't, buddy, it ain't pretty.
Watch out.
But
Yeah.
yeah, with my aunt dying, she was one of those people she didn't have barely 2 nickels to rub together each month, but half of that, what she had, she gave it away. And it always seems like the people that have the least give the most, and I hope I'm always like that.
It
Um,
does seem like the people who have the least give the most. And I'm sorry about your aunt, though. My aunt passed away like in the last year, and she sounds like the way you're talking about your aunt is such a great person. So
yeah, she was. Actually, the I thought of Amber. I don't know if Amber's in here or not. Um, because the day, like, I hope they saved it, but the day that she died, she had bought a plant that was half dead. But that's who she was. She saw its potential and was arguing with her daughter, who was like, "Come on, like, look at this thing is hideous. Like, why do you want it?" And they're not giving a discount. Like, come on, no. She's like, "Nope, it's gonna be beautiful. You watch, you watch." And so she bought it and bought water right there, and so yeah, but
with all
I
living things.
thought of Amber, of like the analogy of that, of a life that you always could make something beautiful or bring something back that to restore something, I guess. I don't know. But then it's kind of
Yeah,
like she felt
but it's
because of
so
the plant. So
it's so special though. Like to think like that is one thing, and then to just walk in normal life and see something and just do it. That's crazy. It's good stuff.
that's how she was. So what about you? Tell us about what what took you to, is it Lima?
Yep,
Or
Lima, Peru.
well, that's the capital, but like you are from where are
Yeah,
you
well,
from?
it's kind of like New York, like they have the Bronx or what, like the little districts. So my district of Lima is San Luis. San Luis.
Okay. Let me see if I can
Yeah, that'd be cool if you could find a
pull,
little
pull
pull
it
it up
up.
somewhere. Yeah, I've been here for 3 years, so it's getting close.
All right. Let's see. My internet's been pretty
Oh, me
slow.
too. Yeah.
That's annoying.
Well, I want to say hey to everyone too. Hey, everybody, thank you for coming. Like I see Marissa and AJ and Nick and Wendy, all the people that usually go to mine. But I see new people. Hey, everybody. Like, good to see you guys. And then Tanya. Tanya said she got the same mic as me too. That's cool. So that's three people with the same mic set up.
Of course. Not responding. I
Yeah, this whole week has been a battle with my internet, so don't even trip. It's been bad for me.
I don't even know what the deal is. I should probably turn some things off. I've got 2 computers set up, a cell phone, the TV's on, my daughter's computer, 4 cell phones.
Yeah, my thing is I like to mute and just yell, "Hey guys, get off the internet, please!"
There. Turned a few things off, see if it'll work.
Right.
Probably doesn't help that I keep continuously clicking today. Well,
Hey, Angie too. Angie just came in. What up, Angie?
hey, Ange.
Ivy. Hey, guys. Oh, hey there. Something came up.
Yeah, I'll try Google Maps instead of
I've
other.
never used maps in any like stream ever. It's so hard for me.
I have not either. I do on my phone a ton, but I like Google Earth a lot.
It's really detailed.
Okay, what is your? Can you spell that city for me? Or how do you say city?
Yeah, yeah. It should be San Luis. So SANLUIS. And it actually probably says Distrito San Luis, Lima, Peru, or San Luis, and then just Lima, Peru after.
Hmm.
It would probably come up if you type Lima instead of Peru. It might come up.
We'll try that. See if it works.
Okay, maybe it'll come up here. Yeah, there. Oh, no, that looks. That doesn't look like where I'm at.
Is that right? The right area though?
That is the right area on the map. Yep, that is it. That is it. Yeah.
Wow, looks
If you if you look at some of the right there by La Victoria, there's like it's weird how they classify like districts and parts of town. It's right on the beach, kind of Lima. It's like one of the coast city.
So, what took you to that area, San Luis?
Yeah, well, I've been here the whole time since Peru. I came to Peru because my wife and I we were living in my place in Rapid City, South Dakota, and I made some pretty bad choices, and she ended up coming back here with her family, and she was pregnant at the time too. So I tried to recover and do a little do a little better, and then a few months later, somebody in my program of AA kind of sponsored my ticket to come here, and I just left and came here.
Well,
Took a bus to Denver and a plane to Lima.
that's cool. It sounds
Yeah,
very different than the United States.
it is. Yeah, it is. It's hard to get used to, but some things like I can see the pros. Like at least the food is really really good. Uh,
Oh yeah.
some stuff in the culture is really good, really refreshing. Like no one will bug you. Like we make homemade ice cream and you go sell them on the street, and you
Mm-hmm.
might get hassled and asked for papers to be selling those in the states. So it's kind of like the wild wild west sometimes.
Ah, wow. I can't imagine. Do you have like? I know the dollar is totally. What is the ratio there of?
Yeah, when I first came here, and ever since I've been here, I can always say at least $1 is always going to be at least $3 here. But lately, it's been like four, almost four, just about. So
That's crazy.
it's completely nuts. Yeah, so it's like I'm so lucky. Like it's hard to work out here, but I've worked like 10 jobs. It's just hard to every job has its own thing, but every once in a while, like, hey mom, can I please have 50 bucks, please? And it's like, oh, there's rent or something like that. So
Wow. Always
it's,
something, right? What
yeah,
is
it
it?
just
What is the economic? What is the economic like status? Like the average income per year for Peruvians in your
Uh,
area? Is it
I'm not sure per year, but I know that most Peruvians they work on a monthly. It's a salary of a month. It's not hourly or weekly, and they all work 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. That's pretty much what it is. And the
wow,
average salary is like between 1,200 soles and 1,500 soles, and that's between $300 and like $450 a month or something like that.
month?
Yeah, a month per month.
Wow.
Whatever 1,500 soles or 1,200 soles is divided by 3.5. That's something like that. 300, $400.
Where's Ivy at? Where's Lake? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I always ask Ivy. Ivy Rose my math questions usually.
Shit, I can't even divide double digits on a piece of paper. I can't. I don't know how I got my GED. I think I learned it and forgot it for the GED test. No,
Yeah,
I don't know.
those standardized tests are a bummer. Well, I guess we better start getting into it. Oh, I did want to ask one more question about like the government. Like, what is the hierarchy? Like, what kind of governmental justice
Yeah,
system within the like? Do you have a president? Like, what it like? I'm
that's
educate
a
me.
good question. Yeah, that's a good question. I could say quite a bit more than people know, but I don't know that much. But I'll try. It's every 3 years they have an election for like San Luis has a mayor, La Victoria, all the 40 districts in Lima have a mayor. So it's every 3 years, not every 4 years. And
Okay, and it's
each,
called a mayor.
I'm
Like a
sorry.
whole, it's a mayor.
Yep. Well, I mean, there's a president of Peru, but each district would run and then pick the president that they run with. So it's like the president picks the district. It's really really weird. Like where I live, it's a small area town, but we run every 3 years, the same time as the president does. And when he runs, he puts a picture of the president that he wants to win or whatever. Doesn't make much sense. But I
Oh,
do know there was a lady named Keiko Fujimori. She was, I mean, they're like Japanese Peru, but they're Peruvian. And
okay.
he was President Fujimori, and there was some kind of terrorist group called the Shining Path here in the 80s. He bombed a whole city block, and he killed a lot of innocent people, killed a lot of the Shining Path. But
Mm.
after that, he was like on the run. He was in America for a time. He was trying to get people were trying to extradite him back here, and his daughter ran for president, and she's in prison right now because there was so much corruption with construction companies and buildings and stuff. Like she was corrupt. And in the last year, we've been through like 3 presidents. Every president that comes gets impeached just like that. Like not America. Like they kick presidents out fast here. I don't get
Really?
it. Yeah,
That sounds
it's
like
there's
the
a lot
church
of
I grew up
corruption.
in. Sounds like the church I grew up in. Like,
it's
dead serious. It was like a rollover of the pastors every other like year. I know
it
I got a
feels
lot.
like that.
I wonder where I put it. Hmm.
Yeah. Tanya asked what crime rates are like here. I don't know. I just know that I've heard that it was 80% or over. I know that the poverty rate is like 40%. And that because if you all those
Wow.
salaries, the median salary is really, really, really low. There's not much
Do
nice
you,
parts in Peru.
is there like investigative units, CSI, FBI equivalents in Peru?
Yeah. Um, there's this expat that I go to a program with, and he had this crazy, crazy story about he only moved to Peru because his wife's mom got murdered here in Lima, and it was like a crazy story. And I know that there's FBI and investigators because he said that they tarped off the whole house. They did a full investigation, and it's still partially unsolved because the maid was also a family member. When they did luminol, they found her cane imprint everywhere in blood, and that
Oh
didn't
man.
match what she said. She said she wasn't even there, so that made it so she
The
was. And then
maid?
yeah,
Ooh,
and then she was a cousin too she was like a family member too, and
dang.
they found money in her maid quarters, which also didn't look good. But the thing was, the maid didn't kill her mother. Like there was other people involved, or at least one other person involved, and she never told the truth, and no one knows.
Really? That's
Yeah,
crazy. So
I
she
tried to get
basically
him on
just
the
like
show.
oh,
I don't think he would talk about it, but it was so interesting.
really? That would be really cool. Or you should have covered that today.
Yeah, I should look it up so I could have names and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
You got a question. Sorry, off topic, but was
Yeah,
Graz friend
uh,
ever found? Oh yeah.
yeah. My friend was found. I just like yesterday there was a Facebook post that he was found in Sioux Falls, which isn't Rapid City. He was there, and they said that some guy said, "Oh, Amos, his name is Amos." They said, "Amos
Mhm.
just checked out of the mission here. He said he's going to some pastors, some church. So I guess he's found. That's good."
Wow. That's good. It'd be
Yeah,
really freaky.
I've never had true crime hit home like really before, so I'm
Yeah,
glad he was found.
it's really hard when it does. It changes your life trajectory for sure. But yeah, missing, I learned real early that I can't do it. I don't animals and missing children. I can't cover. Uh, I can't. I can't handle it emotionally, and I know my boundaries, I guess. So,
It means you have a big heart. That's okay.
yeah, I think you just got to know where to fold them and know when to hold them or whatever.
Yeah. And thank you for
Okay.
asking, Lake. That was nice of you to ask. Thanks.
Yeah, she's a sweetie. That old Lake, Michigan. All right, so I guess we better get started. Would you like to
Yeah,
go
let's
first
do
with
it.
Natalee Holloway?
Okay, yeah. I'd love to.
Alright.
And anybody in the chat, please, say stuff if I get anything wrong. But this is a well known case. It's about Natalee Holloway. Um,
Mhm.
she was born October 21st, 1986. She disappeared in 2005 when she was on a school trip to Aruba. She's from Mountain Brook, Alabama, so she's sounds like an Alabama girl just graduated high school, and it was a huge media sensation because like I said, she disappeared in Aruba. She had been. People said that she wasn't a drinker and stuff, but she was partying with her friends. It looked like it appeared so, and so she was last seen with local residents Joran van der Sloot and brothers Deepak and Satish Kalpo. They were all questioned. They all said
Mouthful.
yeah, they, uh,
Wow.
they just said they dropped her off at the hotel, and that's pretty much it. Was their story. The reason I picked that case is because this man, this monster, Vandersloot, he's incarcerated here in Lima, Peru, or not in Lima, in southern Peru, but he committed another crime. He killed a girl named Stephanie Ramirez, and he was found guilty of that, and he's in jail here. So is it okay if I go over his murder confession for the other case real quick to kind of get into? Oh, Mel, there. Okay. Oh, there you are. It's okay. So I was just making sure I can tell it like that. Is that cool? talk about the
Oh,
other
I
murder
didn't know
confession real quick?
it kicked me out, so I didn't
Oh, you were
hear
out, out.
anything.
Okay. I thought
Yeah.
you gave me the center screen. I was like, oh, Mel.
No, I was gonna try to
Okay.
share screen so I could show Natalee, but my
Yeah.
internet just really not cooperating today. So I'll
Okay.
try it one more time, and if it kicks me out again, I'll quit.
Yep. No problem. No. So the Joran van der Sloot was the suspect in Natalee's disappearance the whole time, even today. And in 2010, he was always questioned and released. He was always the main suspect for Natalee's disappearance. And in 2010, he was still free, but this time he was in Lima, Peru. And this is from ABC News by Russell Goldman. It says, June 15th, 2010. After choking and beating Stephanie Flores Ramirez in the face, a drunken Jorn van der Sloot killed the young Peruvian by smothering her with a bloodied shirt so she wouldn't be able to go to the police. The Dutch murder suspect told investigators that, and he said it was an impulsive act. Um, he gave the detailed description to the Peruvian police how he killed her, and
Really?
yeah, they
Wow.
apparently they met playing online poker, um, and in instant messages.
Well, okay. Where did she go missing from? Do you know
Yeah,
how to spell that?
yep, and this is, and I'm sorry if you were out when I said that was his murder confession for Stephanie Ramirez. So,
Oh, okay.
and this is while he's a suspect for Natalee Holloway.
I got
So,
it. I went out for that. I'm sorry.
no,
So
it's okay. It's okay.
where was he located?
Yeah, he was still suspected of Natalee Holloway's murder, and at this time it was 2010, 5 years later, and it was in Lima, Peru. Here.
Okay, so right here.
Yeah, so he met this Stephanie Ramirez on online poker. They went out gambling, drinking, and then that night, you know, they they say that Flores, the girl, which doesn't. This is his explanation, which we can't give any credit to. But he says
Right.
she lashed out at him, and she struck me on the left side of my head with my fist. He said, at that moment, impulsively with my right elbow, I hit her, and it just gets graphic from there. But pretty much, he freaked out and killed this girl in
Mhm.
the hotel room. He's seen on CCTV leaving the hotel room with a new shirt and a bag. So he
Wow.
and he only got 20, 23 or 24 years for that. So he's going to be out probably soon.
What's the parole like
So
there? Is it pretty
I
similar
don't
to what?
know. I don't think it's similar. I wouldn't I wouldn't think so. That's so worth looking into because I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't even have parole, but I'm sure they do.
Wow. Nick said he thought he was untouchable. I know
Yeah,
you follow Who's Your Cold Cases. You guys did such a great job. He's
thank
brilliant,
you.
and I'm happy to call him a
It's all
friend.
him.
I'm happy to call him a friend. He is a very supportive, great guy, and just learned so much from his reading Joe Navarro's book, which I'm sure everybody in the chat has. I think he's kind of, and I kept telling him, I tried to get him on Get Vocal. It was probably, I don't know, it was back when he was going on Incog, and I think he'd gone on and Truth and Justice. And I kept telling him, join, you got to do your own thing. You got to try to get vocal, like it's a kind of it's like YouTube, but it's more geared towards true crime and like
That
podcasting
sounds
community.
cool.
It's super cool. Me and my friend CJ from Beyond the Rainbow, we had Beyond the Cold Truth on there for about, I don't know, maybe not quite a year. but we've suspended it for right now. Just life, I 2 surgeries, and my daughter has a surgery coming up, so 3 surgeries in the next 4 months. So I just couldn't do it
That's a lot.
anymore, and she was busy too. So we're not doing it now, but there's still, you can still catch us on our Facebook page. But yeah, it's super fun. It's a great community as well. It's funny how I have this community here with YouTube and then this other community over here, and I keep trying to like mesh the two, and sometimes it
Yeah.
works. Sometimes like I have been able to get a lot of support for True Consequences. He is an awesome dude. I think I told you about the campaign I was going to send you, but everybody in the Twitter and all in that world just literally bombarded that prosecutor with emails and phone calls. He said that he told him by like mid-morning he had shut his phone off, and he
Wow.
called and said he's reopening the case. He's going to take a closer look. So there's hope. And like, I mean,
That's
that's what it's
huge.
about. I think his brother
Exactly. That's what it's about. That's what the whole goal is, and he did it. That's the goal. Like the best goal.
it's awesome. Eric is one of the best guys. You can just tell by someone's energy. For me, it's energy. And like he started True Consequences for New Mexico. And I'll tell you what, like he didn't even cover his brother's case until way later, after he had, it wasn't ever his intent. But I'll tell you what, he had asked for some help on Twitter, and people just, I don't know how many people, it went from no coverage to, man, everybody. Suffer the Little Children, I think Beyond the Rainbow did. I mean, everybody pitched in. Reverie, I mean, you name it, they all covered it. And it was just so awesome to see him get that moment.
Well, I
26,
mean,
29-year-old case.
did he? Was there rabbit holes in the case, and he just dug in, or was it something that nobody even knew about? There was no rabbit hole. He just did it. Like how did the story go? And I'm sorry if everyone's already heard it.
Oh, basically his brother was murdered by their stepdad, who, boy, talk about a real close look into coercive control and domestic violence and toxic family dynamic and abuse, and the, like, I don't want to say Stockholm syndrome, but a similar. And the way that a certain dangerous mind, as Who's Your Cold Cases would, what we learned on there, he was a true through and through narcissist. And he singled this family out, and he made victims out of all of them. And just the division that he caused. And this was a guy that she had grown up with, This wasn't a stranger to her. And he was just the knight in shining armor. Everybody loved him at the church, the community, you name it, but behind closed doors, the mask comes off and they're a completely different person. But this little boy was beat so bad. It was one of the hardest case files that I've looked at, and I've looked at quite a few like complete cold case files.
Wow. I'm
Very, very
just
sad. He confessed, but yet nothing happened. He actually tried to blame Eric for.
oh hell no. That kid. I mean, yeah, he's not a kid. He's out here. He's a man calling out other men.
Now,
But
but
I
not
mean,
29 years ago. He was like 6 years old when this happened, and he was blamed.
yeah,
I
that
mean, it's
poor
rough.
kid.
You can watch him and his mom gain more and more. If you listen to their podcast, you can literally hear them cleansing that I don't want to say palate, but like cleansing the relationship and gaining strength as they speak and about the truth, you know, and what they went through and addressing it. I love Damien Eccles. Are you familiar with him? He
Yep.
was yeah, okay. Westminster 3. He's out now, and in one of his YouTubes, he talks about fear and how you have choices when it comes to how you process fear, and you can either let it go all the way around you and just kind of never even acknowledge it and try to hide from it, or you can let it come into you and become who you are, or you can sit with it, accept it, and then watch it go behind you. And like for me, that was just, you got to hear Eric and his mother kind of do that, of like all that trauma. They absorbed it, they acknowledged it, and then they let it go behind them. And now they have a mission in front of them, and that's justice for Jacob. And it's just a really cool thing to listen to. I suggest everybody go check that out. But we kind of rabbit trail, squirrel.
We're out. We're out of here. No, I'm sorry. That it's
You better get
interesting though.
back
I'm just
on.
badass.
I know. I love just chatting, and
Same.
I try really hard to be good with chats, and it is hard. Do you find difficulty with, you know, but yeah, Tanya, he really does have a heart of gold. What
Well,
mindfulness is, yeah. We're so suspicious and careful with strangers, but statistically you're more likely to be victimized by someone you know. That's very true.
yeah, that's true.
The exception to the rule is, I think, what folks like us find so titillating is the serial killers, the unknown offenders, left field crimes that are atrocious. And, it's nothing to be ashamed of. It is human nature for some people to gravitate to things like that. It's always just trying to make sure you keep it in check. Of those are real people, and I know what it's like to be on the other side of that, to be a victim, a victim's family member, loved one. And I'll tell you what, it really changes
Man.
your outlook on what they go through, and it makes you think about everything that I say and everything that I write or do. Would I do that if they were sitting right next to me, if they had to hear that, and like, am I helping or am I hurting? And with Shannon's case, I know I've just love her aunts and uncles. Like, I went out there. I helped them host a vigil for her, and they just become, and the same with Nicole and Ray's family. I mean, they're my family, and I will defend them and protect them probably a little bit more than they actually need, because they're pretty tough. But
Yeah, that's that's some more sad cases there. I wanna. It's something I've been. I don't know about getting to the lesser known cases type of thing because I honestly don't know anything about the Hannish case or the connections there. But we
I
could talk about it, later on a different one if you're down.
would love to. I can come on your channel and totally
That would be cool.
relate,
Yeah, I'd love
and
to talk about him, learn about him.
give some updates on Nicole. It looks like it's about ready. So far, there's she's trying to get some. Ashley Garth is the one murderess left. Talitha will be sentenced at the beginning of next month or the end of this month. Is it April? I'm like, I don't even know what month it is. Yeah, it is April.
Yep.
God, I'm telling you, it's been a long month.
I feel you. I feel you.
But yeah, so hopefully by, I would guess, maybe July or August at the latest, I'm hoping that that part will be over for Cheryl. But right now, Ashley Garth is seeking to have, or it could be prosecution or defense. It doesn't say in the court record. I should correct that, to suppress it's a I can't remember how to say it, Lemmy emotion, which basically means that they're going before a judge to have things not heard by the jury. So, know what she's
Right.
trying to pull. She's pulled her attorneys pulled some things out that you don't see haven't seen a lot of. Like with her getting out on bond, everybody thinks it was because she made this big trade for Delphi. And it's literally just a law, like it is a part of legislation in the code where it's you can have a meaningful bond hearing. You can request that and be given that, even though there is no bond on murder in the state of Indiana. You can request a meaningful bond hearing. It's your right as a defendant, unfortunately. But
Weird.
yeah, and so at that hearing, the weight lies with the prosecutor in order to prove in court to the judge that they have reasonable evidence that she will be found guilty at trial. But when they do that, they basically have to give their whole case away in court way before the trial actually ever happens. And Drinsky's a really smart man, and I think he's got a plan, and I'm happy with what he's done so far with Garrett Kurtz. I think that was literally the most he would have gotten. I think he got the maximum sentence that a jury would have even convicted him of.
So,
To be honest, he
sorry.
got 55 years. 55 years. And
So you think that could have been the maximum that he there's no way he could have got life or death or anything?
I don't think so. I think that if White County had charged him with something, with Ray Hanish's murder, because I believe he did murder him. I think he targeted him, and I also think it's a hate crime. Because when you target someone on a gay dating app and you claim to not be gay, to me that's a targeted hate crime, that would be up a charge even if they weren't able to convict him of intentional murder. We don't have here in Indiana, we don't have like murder 1, 2, 3, or 4. We have murder, intentional killing of another, and then you have manslaughter, and then kind of goes down from there. But I think that they could definitely charge him with aggravated manslaughter, because with murder, you have to prove that the person intended, it was premeditated in a sense. And I totally feel like that's the part that's the most provable in Ray's murder. But as far as you have to look at the circumstances, the mitigating circumstances, and the term is aggravating. So mitigating and aggravating of what you present towards a jury. And, for him, mitigating is his age, simply his age. The kid is a charmer. And although he does have a lengthy record, he could have had more, and I believe he's also guilty of murder, of at least vehicular manslaughter or homicide of Stephen Masterson in 2015, might have been 2012.
Wow, that is seriously a lot of like reckless behavior. That should,
Very reckless, very reckless. But if you study cases in Indiana and you look at the statistics of it, the actual sentences and the sentences served, 55 years that's justice. That I don't think a going to a trial would have turned out a lick of different. It would have just made it harder on Cheryl, But hey, Ashley wants to go for it, so can't wait to see this mess.
yeah.
I feel like she's more culpable than him. I can't. She just makes my skin crawl. She's
Yeah.
she's that evil you don't know, you know? He's the evil you know because it's in your face. She she's slick. Like, ugh, I don't know.
That kind is worse. I completely agree with you.
Mhm.
It's like that's even more of a kind of a I don't know if it's narcissistic, sociopath, psych, whatever it is. It's more of that.
Mhm. Those charmers, those compartmentalizers, they're able to lock up that sadistic urge based, you know, organized killer. You know, they can lock that away and they can be just neighbor next door, just, you know, Ted Bundy. I mean, a lot of them were Kemper, you know, Ted Bundy. A lot of them were even Samuel Little. Like, if you look at serial killers, like a lot of them do get really lucky, though, you know.
One that scares the most shit out of me, I bet, is probably Israel Keys. Like that guy is so scary to me. Like the way his wife and daughter were like in the house, and he just went out to a shed where that was held. That's just sick. And then every single thing that he did. I don't know. I really hope that the murderer in the Delphi case is not like a Keys individual. That would be
Man, that
even
guy.
more.
Yeah, I've actually talked with Hoosier Cold Cases about Israel Keys because he fascinates me because that is I feel like he's in a category kind of all of his own. If you really dig into these serial killers like BTK, I mean, he made some errors early on that he should have been caught. He put his name on one of the papers. Like it literally said Dennis Rader, you
Oh
know.
shit!
Yeah, yeah, like, he made a lot of mistakes. Kemper did, Dahmer did. I mean, some of Geen, of course, you've got the, like, crazy killers. Bundy, tons of mistakes. Bundy he was an organized killer, but then he would get into a frenzy. He would become a frenzied and very disorganized because
Wow.
he was absorbed by his compulsion to kill. And he got so wrapped up in that he forgot that he's trying to get away with this. Israel Keys, no. That dude is a whole nother level. And a lot of people don't even
Completely.
know about him. I always
I
forget the
didn't
guy's
know.
name.
I still don't know some facts about him. Like just the other day, I figured out the thing with him stuffing napkins in the mouth so they couldn't scream. This, like, I didn't know about that until I just heard it two
Yeah.
days ago, and I'm like,
He
bad.
was yeah, he hey Amber. Yeah, he's a
Amber,
different ball game, and so is I can't remember his name. Somebody in chat help me out. The serial killer in Alaska that literally hunted his victims down like prey.
Butcher
He's a
Baker,
different
Butcher,
animal. The butcher something, but I can't remember his name. I don't like to call him there.
Sam.
And
I don't know his real
I
name.
hate BTK. I think it's the stupidest name. I'm glad he has it, so I don't mind saying it. But it's stupid. I mean, think
Stupid.
about it. It's so stupid. That's why I don't mind BG because it's so stupid. Like he deserves a
Yes.
really stupid name because
Yeah, BG. Nothing sensational
he's
like
just
that
stupid.
makes him think he's cool.
Especially if he is a narcissistic psychopath. We don't know. We don't have enough to even make a guess. He hates that. I guarantee you
Right.
this killer is the type that we've seen and studied, through profiling stuff. And he's called BG. He hates it because he thinks he's something really awesome and super smart. And I think that's
Exactly.
why Carter said all that stuff. You know, only a
Right.
coward would do something like this. He's trying to play to his ego. Ego gets a lot of humans in trouble. And
Just
eventually he'll
yeah, selfishness and the whole that's the biggest problem for people.
it is
Self-centered stuff.
being so self-absorbed that you forget to be quiet or to not get upset or to not, you know, and that's where they can catch these. MFs. I'm trying to watch my language if you didn't notice. I'm not
True.
very
Me
good.
too. Sometimes I try harder. It was hard when I was talking to cop facts. I wanted to swear so much, but I was like, I can't. I'm not gonna play any explicit music either. Some guests I try to be a lot more less cussy.
Right. I'm usually not very good at it, especially if I get mad. But here's what I'm going to do because I've just enjoyed talking to you so much. I am going to, we're at an hour already and we haven't even really touched on Natalee and Shannon. So I'm not going to do it right now, but after the live is over, I'm going to cut this into 2 if that's okay with you. So this will just be
Yeah,
like, I don't know, shoot the shit, talk
yeah,
about real chill, I don't know. I'll name it something. I'll divide it, and now we're
cool.
gonna go into our actual why we're here.
Alrighty, sounds good to
Yeah,
me.
less cussy. Amber, I am a hill jack, so less cussy. That sounds good. So we're gonna be less cussy, and we're gonna start with Natalee Holloway, and go ahead and just like real quick give us a update as to where we are right now, so I can edit and chop this
Yep,
in half.
no problem. So the disappearance of Natalee Holloway is about an Alabama girl graduating high school. She was born on October 21st, 1986, and she disappeared in May of 2005. She was on a high school graduating trip to Aruba in the Caribbean. So it was a lot different than Mountain Brook, where she was from. Um, it ended up to be that she, people who knew her, they said she didn't drink and all that. But of course, graduating high school, you're going to party with your friends. So she was partying. She was last seen with Joran van der Sloot, which is
Okay.
a real piece of crap guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, they said the reports initially said she was seen in a car with Joran van der Sloot and 2 brothers, uh, Deepak and Satish Kalpo. Um, so they've they were all questioned immediately. They were even
Right.
arrested, questioned, arrested.
Wow.
So
Wasn't
yeah,
it?
he. Yep, go ahead.
It's coming back to me now. I knew it would. I told you that earlier. I'm gonna remember it as
Good,
soon as you're like midstream. Um,
good.
yes, her mother is a huge advocate for her and has gone over there several times. They were at a hotel. Yeah, man. And
It's
her body has
really
never been found, but she is presumed murdered, right?
right. That's the sad thing is her mother's always like, I know she's alive. I hope she's alive. There's hope, but she's declared deceased. So
Right.
it's really
Didn't
sad.
they find a property or where those perpetrators that you were just talking about were burning stuff, where like they found remnants of I don't know if that was just rumor, because that case is the one that's like full
Hmm.
of, you don't even know what's true.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty full. The one what you're mentioning reminds me of one, but there was a rumor that uh the remains the bones were dug up, crushed again and added with dog bones, mixed and crushed and put back and really and the thing to remember here is I told you or I'll say again really quick that this guy, Vander Sloot, he he was found guilty in 2010 of murdering a Peruvian woman, another young Peruvian woman, and they met online playing poker. And here with Holloway, they met at a casino. So he was still doing that kind of lifestyle 5 years later. I know I wouldn't have done that probably, but
Wow.
yeah, in 2017 there was a kind of a newer article. and it's by Fox News, entitled "Natalee Holloway's Final Hours: New Clues Surface in Teen's Disappearance." Um, One of the Alabama high school students who was with Natalee Holloway on the 2005 trip, they said that she's revealing new details about the final hours before her friend's disappearance.
Oh,
And
really?
Jessica, yeah, just a couple of years ago, so it's fairly new.
Wow. That's good.
Yeah,
About time.
yeah.
You know,
Jessica said, sorry,
there's always somebody
I'm
that knows.
always every case that I've covered. I bet there's people who know every single one.
Yeah.
It's nuts,
Sad.
but this this new information. This lady Jessica, she saw Natalee Holloway being driven away in a car after a night out on their vacation. She said she assumed her classmate found a ride back to the hotel where the teens were staying. But in an interview with Oxygen, she said that the two girls left Carlos and Charlie's, a local bar, to catch a shuttle back to the hotel. While they
Hmm.
stopped to order some street food, they said that she looked up and saw Holloway being driven away in a white car. Um, the window was down so we could see who. The window was down so we could see it was her in the back of the car, she said in the interview. My impression was, oh great, she found a ride back to the hotel. How could, what do you mean you look up and see her driven away and you think, oh great, she found a ride back to the hotel?
Right.
Yeah, so she never returned to the hotel. After friends are unable to locate her in the hotel, um, her passport and her bags remained untouched. A chaperone relayed that news to Holloway's mother, Beth Holloway Twitty. That night, Twitty and her husband, Jug, the stepfather, and family friends, they arrived in Aruba on their rented jet. Their questioning takes them from the Holiday Inn to Carlos and Charlie's, and eventually to the Vandersloot home. Um, Vandersloot only admits he left the bar with Holloway and the brothers, and they drove to a lighthouse before dropping her off at the Holiday Inn. He leads the group to the hotel, promising to point out the security guard who allegedly helped her inside, but unable to find the guard because he said the security guard helped her in. And he changed his story a couple of times too, big time.
Yeah, I think he's guilty.
Yeah, it's.
There's a question up there for you.
I'm sorry. I hope this doesn't sound like I'm victim blaming, but I was surprised at the freedom given to them. Weren't they still in high school? I thought that too. I mean, in Job Corps, it's after high school age, and I was chaperoned hard when we went to different cities, not out of the states even. But I don't know if this was an over 18 thing. If they said chaperone, they must have had chaperones. No, I don't think that's victim blaming though. That's like how their trip was organized, blaming and for the right reason. I agree with you. Uh,
It's tough, I have a freshman in college. And there's such a as a parent, I can see where you want to keep smothering your kids and you want to keep protecting them, and then another part of you wants to let them go, and they need that. They need that for the rest of their life. My daughter is at IU, so of course I freak out every weekend, of like thinking that she's walking around outside. Lauren Spear,
right,
that, um, but you have to let your kids go. I just don't know about. I would have said, I don't know, but I think I would have said no because Natalee Holloway came before my daughter. I don't know that I would have told, because I try to give my kids tons of freedom to be and to be there just kind of beside them, but not in front of them. And I see a lot of that with, like, it would be hard, but I think I would say no now because of what I had to learn, and unfortunately at their expense, which sucks. Of no, I don't care if you're graduating high school or, like all the other kids are doing it. You ain't doing it,
Right.
It's unfortunate.
And with
Marissa says
my daughters,
7 chaperones. Oh, I didn't
I
know.
know.
Wow.
Good info, Marissa. Good research. It's crazy. 7. That's quite a bit. And that when I went out of town with friends and we were drinking in the hotel room, like our chaperone or our teacher was just like a hotel room over, and we didn't leave the hotel room to go party, like that type of stuff. So they must have really just been out there on the town having fun, trying to. Yep. He has so many stories. And there was even undercover stings where he admitted certain stuff, like, oh, they will never find her, stuff like that. And like AJ said too, he tried to extort from Natalee's mom to reveal the place, and then after they gave him the money, he changed his mind and he said, "Oh, never mind. They owed me money because of all the injustice I've suffered over the last 5 years." That's what he said.
Oh my God, what a prick.
Exactly. He's horrible. One of the he seemed we were talking. I would compare him to Chris Watts, even though he didn't do anything to babies. He just sounds like a crappy guy.
I feel like a slithering of the, what is it, the Menendez brothers.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but just that entitled,
Me too.
spoiled brat. Like an entitled, I don't know why. I just feel like he's an entitled, spoiled brat. That's got to be in his profile somewhere. Brat.
Okay. Yeah, just a little brat.
Just
I might have had a little bit of information wrong too, because here I'm reading, after receiving some of the money with the promise of more to come, Vandersloot took the Holloway's representative to a house and claimed that his late father had buried Holloway's body in the foundation. This story was shortly proven to be false. The house was not even under construction during the time of her disappearance, and unfortunately, Vandersloot may never be tried in the U.S. for extortion since he is serving prison time in Peru. So he apparently tried to show them, tried to get them.
Man.
They also think he could be responsible for even more missing girls.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Before the Peru thing, he went to Thailand to allegedly work in sex trafficking. His role was to recruit young women under the guise of being exotic dancers. Emails reveal that he had recruited at least a dozen young Thai women. Some of these women are still missing, and Thai police are investigating the link between the disappearances and Vandersloot. But I don't have any proof. That's just what I'm reading.
Holy shit. Wow.
In 2016, Natalee's father worked with the PI in the last attempt to find out what happened. And this is where the dog bones came. Because in an undercover sting, they obtained information that Vandersloot mixed Holloway's remains with dog bones and buried them in a pet cemetery. The undercover investigation led to a bone fragment. It was determined to be Caucasian European descent, but it was later proven not to be a match for Natalee.
Dang.
Interesting stuff. Sick.
All over the place.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of us get so wrapped up in Delphi of just thinking it's like the craziest, but there's so many unsolved murders out there that like when I got my subscription, is I always mess the prescription and subscription up, but for newspapers.com, I don't know if you have one, but it's the best like $79.99 I spend all year. Well, besides Life 360 to track my kids. But it just makes me not hover over them. So I can just see them on a map and then I can just stay in the background. Now, when they turn that off, they're going to get calls. So it's like, I mean, you're not in trouble. Just please don't turn me off. Like, just let me
Yeah.
know that I can see where you're at. Like, I don't care where you're at, especially my oldest, you know, like I know she's not going to do everything I want her to do, but man, woo. Anyways, totally, I don't know. Totally forgot. No idea where I was going.
It's okay. That's
Well,
interesting too. Just don't turn it off. Just let me know. I promise. That's how I feel I'd be with my
yeah.
thinking about this. It's so late because, or it's so far away because my daughter's just so tiny too. It's like if she was older, I'd be like, you don't go outside. You know, whenever she's at that age, it would be hard to let her outside.
Well, yeah. And I mean, it's hard, you know, you always have a decision as a parent of you. Okay, when a trauma comes in, whether it's someone else's trauma, like with Abby and Libby, that's someone else's trauma. That is their immediate trauma. But it also is traumatic to the community and to parents around. No matter what if it's expected, things like this happen all the time or none of the time. And so you have a choice as a parent of like, what are you going to do with that? Are you going to live and take it? I guess it's kind of like, are you going to change what you do as a parent, but you also risk suffocating your children and not allowing them to really become the best that they can be as an adult. When you take a child and you can't do this because this person was murdered, or you can't do this because you could get raped, or you can't do this because, you know, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter what it is. That kid grows up, and I'm that kid. And they're just full of fear their whole life. You know, it's always that fear that gets in the way. And it messes with your core of who you are. And it takes a lot of time of really going in and working with that inner child to overcome that. And so when these things happen, you really got to do a lot of like soul searching to figure out what choice you're going to make. You know, it's so hard though. It's so hard. My kids, and I'm not going to ever make them stop walking around in the woods. It's good for them. Get their feet on the ground, and their dog, you know, we have a dog. And so I always felt better when he's with them, but you can't you can't alter your life to where you shut yourself in. I know what that's like. And it's not a fun way to live, you know. Bad
Right.
comes and it can come right in your house. No matter how high your fortress is, it you know, no one is exempt from it. And you can't hide and you can't protect yourself all the time. You know, it's impossible.
It's very, very true. Totally, totally
So
agree.
hard. And I feel really, my heart goes out to her parents. I've seen them in a few interviews and their strength, you know, especially the mom. I remember the most about her mom of just dogged, you know, determination and
Yeah,
will. Very reminiscent of Miss Becky Patty, you know, just
yeah.
dogged
Very,
determination.
very, very strong.
Yep. Yeah,
And
definitely.
and like I'm not sure if his dad was a judge, but like Nick said earlier in the chat, like he did have that kind of complex to him, like he felt untouchable, I think. So it's possible. Sorry I didn't catch that one.
Yeah. And another thing I think is so important is there's a fine line between scaring your children and preparing your children. You know, there's such a fine line, and it's hard to know. But I've seen it a few times already with my daughter at IU. These kids, they're just oblivious. It's like they've never thought about the safety precautions they need to take as young girls, or just walking alone on a dark street by yourself when you're drunk. Like, okay, they think I'm doing the right thing. I'm not driving drunk. Okay, but like you have to think about your surroundings at all the time, and learning to teach your children how to protect themselves, what to do in situations and simulated situations, and yet not terrify them to live their life. Phew, so difficult. But I've had to
Right.
have conversations after the fact of my daughter calling me and like, my friend decided to walk home. I'm driving. And I'm like, okay, what should you do? It's like, I should go back and get her. Absolutely. What time is it? It's midnight. You go back and you get her, and you tell her about
Right.
Lawrence Beer. And that little girl didn't
Yep.
even know. She didn't know about Lawrence Beer, and so just little things like that, or her friends just very, they didn't, she has to park 5 minutes away, and they had promised her if she let them have their cars in the dorm, by the dorm, they would always come and pick her up from the football stadium where she has to park, and they wouldn't answer their phone, and so she's sitting in a parking lot
Mm.
late at night, and she calls me because she knows, and it's like, okay, well, you're a sitting duck, that you drive around until they answer, or go park somewhere that's under a light and you find an Uber. You can't just sit here. It's been 45 minutes. You know better. Where's your mace? It's in my dorm room. Okay, well, why is it in your dorm room? Just little things of like making kids aware. um
Yeah.
it's difficult,
And
and that's
I
like,
like what you're talking. Sorry, I like what you're talking about the line, because there's another line that I was kind of feeling when we're talking about the subject is like when I was in eighth grade, I failed eighth grade 3 times because I didn't go to school. I just refused to. I was like kind of a bad kid, and my mom, like for the first couple of years I would do this, I felt so bad because I'm sure I gave my mom or added to her like stress and ulcers. Like it was bad, but it ended up to where my mom was a single mom anyway, and she had my other
um,
brothers, and she was like pretty much forced to let me do whatever I want because I wouldn't listen. People would try, truancy officers would try, but I wouldn't listen. And I would be gone for like weeks. I would be gone for 2 weeks without talking to my mom. And I just think now just how sorry I am for doing that to my mom. Like that's the line I'm talking about is where is the line of if you let them do whatever they want, then it might, they might just take it too far. Like that's how I got, started getting criminal records and stuff like that, just doing whatever I wanted and not having
right.
any yeah, any guidance. I had it, but I didn't listen. I'm sure I could have got more, but it's
Yeah,
not.
it's hard, and I know it's about, and I'm not hyper religious. I don't even believe in organized religion, but I grew up in Christian school where we were forced to memorize scripture, and I always think of the verse,
Uh,
um, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. And I took that verse as, that training that you do when your children are very young, when you teach them to respect you, you teach them to have boundaries and to, have build up their own inner self confidence and trust in themselves that they can conquer situations by letting them fall down with guidance when they're really young, and that's when they get older in those teenage years, when your kid is bigger than you are and you can't force them. Life is about choices, and every time my kids are faced with a choice, or I tell them to do something, it's like, okay, well, I can't make you do it. I can't make you clean your room. I can't put my arms on yours and physically make you do it. Um, but it's your choice. It's always your choice, whether you listen or you don't. And I could see the like psychology, the reverse psychology almost. I didn't mean it like that. I just want my kids to know that they always have a choice, and your choices have consequences or rewards, because that's something you'll use the rest of your life. And learning how to teach those children when they're really young, all of those fundamentals that will keep you, because you're right. Like, your mom couldn't make you go, they couldn't make you go. You were going to do what you were going to do. But what you weren't considering is, how is this going to affect my life? What are the
Right.
consequences, and what is the long-term consequences that this could have on my life? And I think that just takes conversations. I was talking to Hoosier Cold Cases one time, and he had brought up something that he does with his children, his little girl, and it's brilliant. And I respect the hell out of him for that. But he had talked about how he asked her permission to hug her. Can I give you a hug? Is it okay if I give you a hug? Be- and
That's
how
beautiful.
isn't that beautiful? It's such a simple little thing, but the amount that it teaches his little girl, and any other parent, any other daddy that decides to do that, like goosebumps, because that's how you teach your children, and ingrain it in your children. Instead of telling them something, you're going to do this, you're giving them that choice to, this is my body, this, I have domain over this. And
Yep.
if my daddy has to ask for my permission, then you sure as hell do too. And how many women that are victimized out of a circumstance like that, where men just think they can grope them, boyfriends and coming along, just those little things,
Yeah.
natural.
That's something I gotta apply. That is so, like, thinking about it, that's gotta be effective.
Absolutely. And you give your kids those choices that build their confidence. And sometimes, when they make the wrong choices, not holding it over their head, of, it's like, okay, now how are you going to get yourself back up? What is this is the consequences, you know, you made this choice. These are the consequences. Does it define who you are? Absolutely not. It was a mistake. But mistakes are only mistakes if you don't learn from them. And if you learn from
Yeah.
them, they are life lessons. And so every time your kid has a mistake, it's not a it isn't something that should ever break down their self-worth. It should be something that their parents turn into using to build their self-worth. Because even in our mistakes, that's when we find who we really are. When you fall down all the way to the bottom, and what you do from that choice, where you go when there's nothing else you're going to do. You're either going to fall off the cliff, or you're going to climb it. You're going to go one or two ways. You're going to fall to your death, or you're going to get to work. And like, teaching your kids that those mistakes don't have to be a life sentence, like that. I think that's the most powerful thing we can give our kids. But I'm like
True.
going on.
Oh, this is like opening me. I'm a new parent. This is like, whoa. Whoa,
Yeah,
dude.
I took parenting very seriously, and I knew what I wanted to do way before I ever had kids, of what I wanted to teach them from my childhood and what I didn't. And that made all the difference of breaking cycles, you know. I'm so proud of my kids. I couldn't. And right now, my daughter's about to be in a situation that most kids would totally be terrified of and nervous, and I'm sure she is. But to be like, you know what? I'm going to stand up for what's right. And I'm going to do what I have to do to protect a child. And I could not be more proud of her. Like she is something else. And that I get to be their mom is, you know, blessed.
Yeah.
They do work well.
I
Boys
told,
work really well.
and it's easy to be like, well, look what happened. You freaking didn't hold it with two hands. Shit. I mean, you don't say it like that, but it's easy to make them realize what they did was
Right.
or
This right
whatever.
here, this what Ivy just said right here, this last part. If you treat them like they're irresponsible, don't be surprised when they act irresponsible.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that is global parenting class with Melanie. That's good time. But
Yep.
sometimes there is another plan, and maybe it wasn't to just there's someone out there that needs to hear this right now, and sometimes there's another plan, and I'm trying to learn to be okay with that and not be so rigid. So I'm happy this happened. We got all sidetracked, but that right there is you see that with abusers. You see that with controlling abusive relationships, that if you're constantly controlling what your partner's doing, if you are looking over their shoulder and expecting them to cheat on you every other second, I mean, that's abusive behavior for one. And no one should have to put up with being controlled. It is it's not anyone else's right to tell you where you can go, what you can do, what you can wear, what you can have on your phone, what you can look at. Like it's not anyone else's right to do, but we take that so for granted in our society. But when you do treat someone, don't be surprised when you get exactly what you've been thinking that they're going to do, because you're also molding that adult or that teenage boyfriend or girlfriend into exactly what you think they are. The trust, there's so much distrust in our culture, and it's getting worse and worse. It's scary. Like, and I know it. Like, yeah, I think good people always try to trust. If you have a good nature, you try that first. But it's really hard, especially in this community. It is so difficult because you don't know what someone's motives are. And sometimes you don't know what their motives are until you get stung. It
Yeah,
kind of sucks.
even with all this research that we do, the dangerous personalities just creep right up, and anyone could have one. It's really
Right.
crazy to think about. Even even just in this true crime world since January, I think Truth and Angela from Truth and Justice said this too. It was funny because I felt the same way. She was like, I thought sometimes I thought a person was good and then bad, but then I found out they were really good. And then they did something bad, but it ended up that they were good. And I'm like, I feel you there. It's
Yeah.
just crazy.
Yeah. And there's times when I have to tell this to my kids all the time of like, you don't have to light yourself on fire to keep other people warm, you know? And there are people that are takers, and you don't have to give all of yourself to try to, well, help someone else. And no matter how much faith that we have that one day that person may change, it's not my responsibility to keep waiting for that day. If it costs me self-love, if I lose self-respect or love for myself at the expense of trying to see the good in someone else, then now it becomes a personal problem, you know, and no longer about them. And I hope they get better. You can always hope, but it doesn't have to be them get better in your life. There's some things that people can do that don't change your relationship. It has to be over. And you can wish them well and support them from a distance and hope that they change. Everybody is capable of change. I will never not believe that. I think it's harder for some people than others, especially if they have narcissistic or sociopathic, psychopathic minds. It's very difficult, almost impossible. They can learn to mimic those emotions, but they're hardly ever really taught and internalized. Um, but I also don't believe
And
that we're ever born bad. I don't think that there is one. I know there's a lot of studies, but we're not born evil. We're not evil. And so there is always going to be a lot of nurture. But how do you explain not and I see people constantly trying to find like this serial killer with like the best perfect childhood. Well, that's fucking impossible. That's not going to happen because
yeah,
what I think it is emotional intelligence of like dependent on where a child in their formative years emotional intelligence is of how they deal with trauma and and abuse or neglect, whatever the issue is, it's where their emotional intelligence has to lie, because you see these kids that grow up in these horrendous conditions, but they're not serial killers and they're not psychopaths and they're not narcissists, and they turn out just fine. Do they have a lot to overcome, more so than someone that grew up in a pretty healthy family? Absolutely. But what is it that separates that psychopath, sadist, serial killer that we like to study about from the kid that grew up the same way in the same household? What is it about the mind? And I think a lot of it is the emotional IQ of what you're born with in your, um, with your id, so to say. It has to be. Otherwise, how does anyone that grew up traumatized or abused, or why are they not all the same, you know?
right. When I'm really wondering about somebody, like I'm thinking, hey, does this person have one of these dangerous personalities, or should I be careful? Am I getting played? Are they hurting people, or whatever it may be? I for, and I don't do this all the time, but I think, have I done what they're doing right now? Have I done this before? And then I think, well, when did I do this? When I was a teenager? Did I do this last week? Uh, you
Mhm.
know, is this out of character for them? Do they do this all the time? Why did I do that? If I did do the same thing, and it all boils down at some point to be like, and this is only my belief, but I'm like, if they're not sober, but if they're not high on drugs or like a complete alcoholic, and if they're an adult with no like mental issues, they should be able to just grow up and be like, okay, just grow up,
Um,
kind of.
and I think the ability to, self-reflect. There's a lot of people that they lack insight into their own self, um, and they're never ever really to be able to, like, turn that mirror around and be like, "Okay, I get criticized, it used to be a little bit more for just, criticizing myself, and it's not really that, it's just knowing my limits or knowing what I'm good at and what I'm not, and being honest, and trying my hardest to acknowledge and then learn and then grow. It's something that you have to do every single day. And I think a lot of people lack that like insight into how to become a better person. What they do is they mimic what they think. And the horrible thing is if they spent half the amount of time actually trying to be a good person than they spend trying to look like a good person, they'd be a good person. That's the like
Like
Wow. You know what I'm talking about,
just
though?
just what you said earlier about, not telling the world when you do nice things. Like that, if you're trying to mimic even if you don't know what's right, if you're trying to mimic it because you don't know how to do it, go ahead, but you just don't tell everybody, don't do it on a post for the general to see, and it might work out. Like, I don't see exactly that. When you were talking about that, that's what I thought about, was people, you know, like when I really thought about, like, I was like, you know what, that is so nice for those people to donate to me. Like, and I'm gonna go and just get some of these Venezuelan guys some lunch or whatever. And I thought about recording it, and I'm like, you know what? That would be pretty cringy and pretty. I just couldn't do that. It doesn't feel right. So I did
But you
that, but I
did it
didn't
before.
put it on.
You thought about it. You thought. You
I
thought.
did, yeah.
And that sometimes it makes all the difference of just like, ugh, what are my motives? Being able to say, like, why would I do that? Why do I
Hmm.
want to do that? And a lot of times that can help us stop from doing something that is exploitative. You know what I mean by that? Is just being
Yeah.
able to like ask yourself, like, what are my motives? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And if they're not pure, having enough, like, can I go to bed with this tonight to say, I'm going to do a different choice. I'm going to make a different choice here. I don't think a lot of people, I think it's a hard thing to learn, especially as an adult, that if you didn't have a good child and you didn't learn those things when you were younger, you didn't have that train up a child in the way you should go. And when he's old, he won't depart from it. Not saying your child's going to ever be perfect, just saying that you're giving them that baseline of strengths. And so when they do get old, even if they stray from it, they come back to it. But there's some people that didn't have that. And so they have to have enough insight and self respect to do it for themselves. And it's really sad, you know, it's sad.
The first time I went to treatment for drugs, I ne- I came to this epiphany or whatever, that clarity is all that I need. Like, if I can get clarity on my childhood, I think this is going to be so good to move forward. And I talked for like a week to counselors and my peers about, well, you know what, my stepdad used to beat me up. My brother's dad used to hit me and stuff like that. And
Mhm.
I think when I was 4 or 5, I had like blackouts. Like, I don't remember a lot of that stuff. And I
Wow.
talked to my mom, and my mom said, well, he never hit you, but he would like grab your favorite toys and break them in front of you. And I was like, well, that
Mm.
sounds pretty messed up too, but why don't I don't remember this, but I just remember bad stuff, and
That's
some of that. I was like, what clarity can I the clarity that I thought I was getting from him hitting me was fake. I had to find he wasn't doing that. So I had to find out what he was doing, and he was doing more psychological type of stuff, like locking me in the room, like breaking stuff, taking my piggy bank. Like, it was just weird, and I didn't know that it did make me who I was. Like, some of the stuff he was doing, I was doing when I went to treatment, and it was just weird.
wow.
Just a weird
That's
to
very sadistic.
yeah. He did
That's the
some bad
definition
things.
of sadists, like, of just he wanted to watch you hurt. He wanted to physically watch what the action would do without laying a hand on you. Someone can totally crush your spirit. They don't have to
Yeah,
put a hand on you.
yeah,
And
it made
that's
me feel like I was beat. Now it made me feel like I was, and I wasn't. Like, that's how much it hurt. But it was cool to get some clarity, some
I
real
bet.
clarity.
I bet. And I think a lot of people get trapped in the addiction um life trap just because of that one time you make that you don't make, you make that, just you don't even give yourself a choice. You're just like, I'm just gonna do it, and you just do it. You don't think about it. And then the next
Hmm.
thing you know, half your life's been wasted, addicted to a something else other than, what we should be all about as humans. And that's
Yeah,
just, it's so sad. I grew up very sheltered, and I can remember turning 18 and just being like, I want to do everything. I want to try everything. Luckily, I had some really bad experiences, and I never did anything again. But like, if you don't get so lucky and you end up chasing that high, you chase that high the rest of your life. You know,
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is something that is so it's just it's so hard. I've watched so many of my loved ones struggle, and anyone that gets out, you got to do it every day. You got to remember that to make sure you make that choice. And when you're about to do that, again, be like, what is the long-term consequences? Where did I come from? How hard did I have to work to get here to where I am today? And how is this decision that I make right now going to affect moving forward? And I think that
Right.
taking a pause to think about that, you know, maybe it would help someone not make that choice to go back to a drug or drink. It just makes your whole life hard. You constantly have to think about every little thing that you do after you get clean, you know? You can detox, but when you get clean and you're cleansed, your whole life has to come first. What is this going to do to affect my sobriety? You know?
Yeah.
And
And it's even harder, like if I were to get clean when I'm 29 right now. If I got clean when I'm 29 and I started using when I'm 16, it's like some mentally I still feel 16 sometimes because
and that is
you know
true. It really does. There's studies on that. That's,
it's
if
such a weird thing.
yeah, it really is. It's uh it's traumatic in and of itself, and it's usually caused by trauma. You're running from something, you're trying to hide from something. You don't like who you are unless you're on something. I see that with someone that I love, and it doesn't matter what it is, what other substance it is. If it numbs who they feel they are, not who they really are, they're wonderful, but like they just can't be in themselves, like sober, without anything altering that, because they've never learned how to deal with emotion, never learned to let it go behind them instead of just absorb in them. And so it's like a constant numbing of,
Constant numbing. Yeah. Not to
uh,
feel. Yeah.
yep. Well, we did it again.
We we did
It's
maybe.
one of them days, buddy.
It's
I've
fine
enjoyed
with
the heck
me.
out of it. But
Yeah, me too.
do you have any last comments on Natalee Holloway?
No, but I mean, yeah, I do. At the end, I'll just. This was the latest article, and he says the father Dave revealed new information on the case last week, 2017, still, and it was saying a tip from a man who claimed to have helped dispose of her body 12 years ago led to the discovery of unidentified human remains behind a house in Aruba, calling it a major discovery. They said they're testing it for DNA, and the results could take a month. But I didn't hear anything new on that. I was just throwing that out
Mm.
there.
You hate
And
that.
I do. I really do. I would, and there's so many people in the chat. Maybe a future episode on her or to watch more because I'd like to know more.
Yeah,
Because
but
I
a
was going
lot
to
of
ask,
times it's just dropped. It's like, oh, we got this, and then that's what happened with Shannon's case. It like it'll get all exciting, and then there's nothing ever done. Like it just kind of plopped out. But like when you read the article, you're like super hopeful, and then you look at the date, and you're like, oh. Same with
and
Delphi,
and Ivy, that was 2017. But I was just going to say that on Delphi. That's exactly why these people shouldn't only do Delphi because it makes these cases get left behind. You got to, do this one, that one, this one. different topics.
Right. And you
And
can truly understanding a deviant mind doesn't come from studying an unknown killer with very, very little information. If you truly want to, covering these cases or studying cases where a perpetrator is known, can teach you so much more about your passion case, you know. I've learned so much more about Delphi, not following Delphi than, just because it's like there's a template that you can pretty much track. That's why I think I find Israel Keys pretty interesting, I guess.
yeah,
So I hate that word.
in his own league, kind of, in his own kind of
Horrendously
category.
interesting. He's an oxymoron. We'll give him that. Horrendously interesting human.
Yeah.
But because it's a deviation from but you can always find a pattern in most all behavior, and you can always find something that you can relate and learn from, in what the psychology is of a case. And that's why I wish we knew the motive. I know for me, I've had an internal struggle because I do live here. And so there are people that have come up that I've thought about. And then I thought, well, man, if I just knew the motive, then I would know if it was them. Because when you turn in a tip on someone that you know, and it's just those trying to see those signs, those things that aren't adding up, and then have to turn that in, you know. But if you there's people in my life that I know them, and if I knew that it was a child predator, I'd be like, guilty, take him away. Can totally see him doing that because I know him. You know what I'm saying? If it's something that has to do with just aggressive violence against a human, whether it's whatever the motive is, it tells you about that person that you know, and then you can, but if you don't know, which I guess I get why they don't release that, but I wish they would, because I don't see how it could harm. It's not giving away the details of the crime scene. It's giving just the motive of why they were murdered. And for those people out there that are hesitant to call in that tip because they're like, I don't even know enough information to go and blow up my fucking life like this, to harm someone that I love or know. Because I believe the person that holds the key is someone that knows this person. It's not any of us, I mean, it could be, but it's not. It's not. It's going to be someone that finally gets the courage to be like, there are some things I'm questioning, And but I'll tell you what, it is not easy. It is not easy, and I don't know. I just think that money isn't it. You don't. A lot of people aren't going to betray their family for money. There's not. Now, some people
not going to do it. Yeah.
Some people are. They'll walk away from their entire family if they never speak to them again. But some people, hell or high water, family is family, and you don't turn on your family.
It depends on the dynamics.
It does. And especially in toxic family dynamics. You don't turn on. They don't turn on each other. And if you do, then you are you're the outcast, rough. But that's
I agree with you more.
With Shannon Paulk's case. She was 11 years old, cute as a button, just coming into herself, getting ready to start school at a new school. She had gone to her, I guess it would have been her. So if it was her aunt's son, then that would be her cousin, but he was a grown man and married. And she had gone and spent a couple weeks with him. So she wasn't at home a whole lot that summer. But Shannon lived in Prattville, Alabama, in a mobile home community that, like, I went there, and this I don't know what I had an idea of, perception, like, our perception, I had a perception of what this crime was, what this town was, what everything was all about. But when I went there, I was like, "This is all wrong," like that. It's not a rural area at all. It's actually very nice and very huge. I mean, compared to where I live, I mean, there was just highways everywhere, 4-lane roads, and it was something like that back then too. I hadn't just really absorbed what I was reading about the population and all those facts. But this neighborhood, on the other hand, it is like you've got this huge road, and then you drive down this little tiny, like, driveway, I guess, and you go to and it's all wooded, and then you can turn left or right, and it's basically like this big oval, and it's set down kinda in a holler, and it's very excluded and inclusive. That's where Shannon lived, and Shannon was allowed a lot of freedom. She played outside. She was a kid and free. They thought they were safe, and a lot of the parents have reported the same thing. They allowed their kids to play, a lot, they were just out, and that's that day on August 16th of 2001. Shannon, I think she'd only been back from her vacation for not even a week, and she started school the next Monday, and this was on a Thursday. I believe it was a Thursday. It was 16th of 2001. And there was a few neighbors that saw her. I think the last report of someone seeing her was around 12, and she had stopped by to see if she could come in to someone's house and play with a dog that she had rescued and they took in. And after that, it's like the earth absorbed her, just literally gone. There was a stroller that was left on the curb around this pond of her neighborhood, and that was it. And someone had actually picked that stroller up because they thought it was on the curb because someone was getting rid of it as trash. And it was only after the crime, and she had unfortunately cleaned it up. But that Shannon was just gone. No one knew. There was an extensive search. There was dogs brought in. There was just the community really wrapped themselves around the Paulk family. And unfortunately, they just didn't think to look. Oh, it's about 10 miles. I think it took me 10, 12 minutes to get there. But it's mostly because you're on a red dirt road. And here's another thing I think that if someone's hearing this and they may know who this killer is, something to that you might not think of is dirt. And this red dirt road is not that's not all of Alabama like how Georgia is. We were on a ton of other roads, but the dirt was the same in Indiana. And so, but that red dirt was all over my car. But by the time I got back to where I was staying at the hotel, or when I went back to Candlestick afterwards, there wasn't anywhere that you would pick up red dirt. So I always try to remind people, if you saw a vehicle that was covered in red dirt, because I think the killer is someone in that neighborhood because of how protective and inclusive it was. Do you remember a van, a truck, a car that was all of a sudden had red dirt all over it? That might be your killer. Because I'm telling you, that road was horrendous. And it's the exact same as back then. But her body was found in this Hunty preserve on October 6th of 2001. The two hunters found her body, their dogs. And she had basically, you kind of, you go, winding on this red dirt road, you can either kind of continue a curve or you can curve into the woods, basically, on this little path. But you can totally drive on it. Now it's blocked off, but back then you could drive all the way back there. And her body was found down, so you kind of take the curve into the hunting preserve, and then they took a left at like the first turn, and then there's like this big, it's like a cul-de-sac, an open field, and someone drove their car. I can just see it in my head. Someone drove their car back there. They took her body in a trash bag and they threw it into the woods. And that was the extent of what they did. To me, that says, hurry up. They were not, if they weren't an organized killer. And I don't think we're dealing with a serial killer. There has been links to other cases because of the similarities of trailer park, 11 years old. They look alike, the motivation of the crimes. But unfortunately, I don't think, and I think that law enforcement agrees with me, that they're not connected. I mean, that's just my opinion. But I have that opinion because I've talked to them before. Really great team of investigators and prosecutors in Shannon's case. And I totally feel like they're going to get justice for her. I think it's a matter of, have you ever studied histrionics? Like a histrionic personality or a codependency?
Codependency a little bit. Yeah.
Well, you see it in toxic family dynamics. I think that's what we're dealing with here. I think there's someone that, I think that they have a DNA, because you can have DNA in cases and still not be able to take it to trial and still not be able to get a conviction or even get a grand jury to indict on.
I thought that before too, based on if they know the person or something like that. Like if it could have been coincidentally transferred the DNA.
Right. Transfer from, say there's definitive DNA, I would say. If not to be macabre, but, in an oral cavity and that an oral cavity was used in a crime, or an anal cavity or a vaginal cavity, and that only happened in the commission of the crime, under the fingernails is another one. That could only have got there during the commission of the crime. And other than that, you have to have all the proof in the world to prove that it didn't get there other ways. The burden always lies with the prosecution. You have to prove that beyond reasonable doubt, this DNA profile could have only gotten there by the person that killed her or whomever. Right. Colleen Fitzpatrick was on Gray Hughes, and she had said that a killer is always going to leave a piece of themselves at the scene, and they're always going to take a piece of themselves with them. And it's absolutely true. And I'm not talking about trinkets and something to remember it by. I'm talking about evidence. I'm talking about trace evidence. They're going to bring something with them, and they're going to leave something behind. It's a matter of, can you link it to them definitively? And unfortunately with Shannon, I think that's the problem. But I think that this is a person that has a deviant mind, and they've probably told somebody. Somebody is suspicious of them, and somebody may be protecting them because they're in a codependent relationship. I think that those kinds of relationships are what keep these cases cold, because of alibi, or just not telling what you know, or right, hair, sweat, etc. Yeah, I mean, there are so many different elements to forensic evidence, not just the ones that you think of right off the bat. Where did that trash bag come from? What if it came from the maintenance man? What if, and then his DNA was on it? Well, can you prove that it was him? No. Like, you can't. What if it came from, the owners of the park, or your neighbor, or the trash man, like someone else, there are things that you think, oh God, yeah, if they found DNA, they're definitely going to be able to know who it is. They may have a suspicion, doesn't mean they can prove it. Not
Yeah.
in the court of law.
I wanted to ask a question about Shannon that I
Go ahead.
saw. Yeah, it just reminded me of just something that was totally frustrating. So she was found. This happened in 2001, and I heard that there was a composite sketch that came out in 2007, like 6 years later. Is that true, or is there a story behind that?
Oh Lord. Yeah, I hate sketches.
They said he
They're
had a mole. Like, what is? Yeah, I don't know
yeah.
anything about it. Just wanted to ask you about it.
Yeah, on my podcast that's not on YouTube, I covered her case like really extensively, and I got my dad and I talked about that, and it was like he goes, "You had me until you said there was like 3 hairs in the mole." And he's like, "Come on now. That's a
3
kid's
hairs in a mole.
Yeah, there was like 3 hairs in the mole. And then the one sketch, they actually drawed them on. And like the one of the hairs goes from the mole all the way over to his nose. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. But to me, when I look at that, I look at a picture a child made up in their head that is their boogeyman. And in 2017, it came out that the sketches were no longer valid at all.
That is so frustrating.
Right. And I spoke to the prosecutor, the assistant prosecutor, who currently, if it's solved while before this team who's in there now, which it's still the prosecutor at the time, but the assistant prosecutor, unfortunately, and we talked about that of, she was close to Shannon's age. And now she's the one prosecuting this case. And so both her and the other assistant prosecutor, I can't remember his exact title, super cool guy. And they both came to the vigil, just great people. And I got to talking to her about it, and she had said that. She's like, be it not for that sketch, I really think this could have been solved really quick. And be it not for 9/11.
Yeah, that
You
that
know,
7 years for a sketch, then 10 years to say it. That's 17 years lost. It seems like.
and
Or,
I mean, they
or,
doggedly searched for that person. They went through 5,000 photo IDs looking for that sketch, Harry Mole Man,
wow.
and narrowing it down to a list of 300. That's where all their time went, and it wasn't even true. And I have to question the person who influenced that child, because I guarantee you they were influenced by an adult, whether they realized they were
Ah,
influencing that child or not, whether it was the sketch artist, the detective, or that child's parents. If it is that child's parents, you got to kind of wonder, has anyone taken a close look at those children's parents? What did they have to
yeah,
hide? Could they have influenced their children to make someone else up? There's a lot of kids in that neighborhood that I have talked to, and they are messed up. There are ways of thinking, and it's not their fault, but you don't know what you don't know. That's ignorance, and it's not a bad word. It's just you don't know what you don't know. And some of the things that I have heard, well, for one, they'll break your heart. But it tells you a lot about what these kids is like, where they were at in justice and right and wrong. And a stern talking to a child that's been raped is absolutely unacceptable for a parent to settle for a stern talking to. No, you go full drama, you protect your child. But when that child grows,
yeah,
that affects the way that they think about things. And a lot of these kids are very affected by this, very traumatized by what happened to Shannon. Like a transference or something, but it's beyond what you would normally think of. And it kind of feels like there's something that I've had them reach out to me and ask me what I think about hypnosis. I think a lot of them feel like they have literally repressed memories and they don't know how to get them out. And I think it's more of these children don't know how to process, and it's not their parents, that their parent I've met some amazing parents in that neighborhood who helped raise Shannon. They were her second mommy and daddy, like great people. Um,
Yeah.
but it also kind of makes me wonder if Shannon, maybe it was an accident, you know? Maybe it was a molestation gone wrong. We know from the crime scene that she was tied with rope. I like rope. For me, tying knots. I have a friend in Prattville, Alabama, in Candlestick that calls me Knotter because I like to tie knots. It calms me down. It calms my anxiety is to sit and just tie all different types of knots that I learned when I was a kid. And,
Yeah.
but there are ways that you can kill someone with a knot, a hog tie, you can kill someone, just something simple like that. And I have to wonder if maybe it was something like that that went wrong. Yeah, survivor's guilt, Ivy. I think it's a little bit of that, but that's what I mean, where it's like just above what you normally see. And it makes me wonder if there isn't more trauma. And every time I'll get
Like
one.
I said earlier, I felt like I had blackouts from childhood, even though I obviously wasn't drinking, but I just can't remember some stuff. So I feel that.
Right, right. But usually we either can put the bad memories in a little box. It depends on personality, because I think a lot of people can, like, I can watch my mom do it. She's brilliant at it. I wish I had a little bit more of it. But she can take like anything negative and just like it's like I can literally visualize her putting it in a trapped box, shutting the lid, and just throwing it to the back of her brain where she doesn't let it bother her all the time. And then there's other people that just like it's all they think about. It's going to be their only memories from childhood are the negative ones. They're not going to remember anything positive. And I probably lean more towards that way. I've tried to teach myself and remember. And the more I grew as a person, the more positive I remembered from my childhood. But I think there's kids. I've heard some almost stories that's why I have the opinion that I have, from her friends. It's like where they almost fully tell me what happened in that neighborhood. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Yep.
And, but it just, and I feel for him because it just sounds so outlandish. It just sounds so, you're kind of embarrassed to even say it out loud that you think this is what happened or that this could have
Yeah.
happened to you because it's so disturbing and like ludicrous that this would happen to children. But I can't help but think that they were being used to make child pornography in person. And that's why they have almost like Ivy had mentioned that survivor's guilt, but it's almost like it's a little bit deeper than that. I can think of 3 right now that have reached out to me with the same problem of feeling like they can't remember, and there's a reason for that. And I think it just goes a little bit beyond our friend was murdered. It's different. It's not that survivor's guilt. It's like this transference of victim. Like it's very bizarre. Um, and I have heard
That is
some of the most
very bizarre.
I have heard some of the most horrendous um accounts from people, and I mean they all can't be a Shannon's killer. They all can. They're oh my gosh, it's probably 16 that I could name off by name just right now. I'm not going to do it because they all 16 can't be the killer. But to me, it seems like it was a sexually motivated crime because she was found with her clothes in a pile. But she had basically, in Alabama heat, 6 weeks, had almost skeletonized. And not all of Shannon was recovered. But her family is so grateful that they got to bury her, and know what happened to her. And it was so sweet to hear them of like finding something to be thankful for. And that's what they were thankful for.
Right.
And like how sad that is. How sad that
Very
is.
sad.
But yet how encouraging it is, how brave it is of them to say, well, at least we feel bad for the people that don't ever get to know where their kid is, because there's millions of them out there. They don't ever know. They die not knowing what happened to their child. That is a pain that I can understand, but it's still of that, like, at least we're not there. And then those people, well, at least we're not here. And when people can do that and they can look beyond themselves, I think that shows you the true character of those people that this has happened to. And Shannon was just a beautiful little soul. I mean, you can just, everyone I've talked to, this little girl touched them in a positive way. I have not heard one negative thing about her. And I think that, I mean, even though she only lived 11 years, but that's pretty impressive to live a life like that. And she should have got that opportunity to turn into all she could be as an adult. But her case is still unknown. And I'd heard you talking to, what's his name? He's kind of new to Delphi, but he's like an investigator or something.
Top facts.
Yeah. I just started watching him as well, and I saw him on your channel talking about John Benet Ramsey. Well, John Carr, who confessed, pretty much it's a false confession. I think everybody kind of knows that. And if you want to know more about that case, you'll have to go read about it. I think everybody does, though. But he grew up in the area near the area where Shannon went missing, and he was named a suspect in her case. And there were drawn, once the cases were both known, and then he had come forward. I can't remember exactly when he came forward, but yeah, he was suspected, and I think he was cleared. They've pretty much cleared, and that's one thing it's different than Delphi. And even when I call and ask, they will tell me, no, that person has been cleared. They are not a suspect. Which, we know that with Delphi, I ain't done that a single damn time. They say covered or whatever, which I think it's just like word vomit. Like, it's just like that tit tat kind of semantics. It's semantics. But with Shannon's case, I mean, they come out and say, no, they're not a person of interest. They've been cleared. That is not the right avenue or whatever. And they're pretty straightforward about that. There are, however, 2 men from the very beginning that they have never said that about. Never said it. Jack Gibson, who was known as the Root Beer Man. And he was known as the Root Beer Man because he liked to give root beer and candy to kids. And he would he would pay them money to clean his house. Shannon's sister say that she did not ever clean his house, but they did. And turns out, well, this guy was a creep to the max. He was arrested on like 500 some counts of child pornography, and he was making it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
And I know this because they said they had told, I've heard it with my own ears, and they've told the family that she was not one of the children on his hard drive. She wasn't one of the pictures that he had. And so by implying that, it means that there were other children in that park that were victims of his. And I think he was one of those, peeker too, this creepy, gross guy. Well, he died. He has been dead. I actually had to confirm that with the detective in charge of her case because he has no obituary. And I would feel real sorry for him because that's pretty sad to like die and nobody even cared enough to give you an obituary. Like how horrible, Like think about that. Like you never existed. If you don't have an obituary, I never put much stock into obituaries. Like I guess people that go to cemeteries, that like stalk graves or whatever, they might know, but but I don't feel sorry for him
Yeah.
because he's gross. He's disgusting. He moved to New Mexico. I should hook up with Eric from True Consequences and see if there's anything else connected to the a-hole. But he has never been not a suspect. And then a guy named Ty Foster. He lived in the area. He was the maintenance man he worked for Corky's Homes, which was the owners of Candlestick Mobile Home Park. And he worked there. Then he works. I know he worked there at least up until the time of the grand jury, but he was also charged with child pornography. That was an open investigation before Shannon's murder, and then no, wait, wait a second. That was found in 2000. Was it 2002? That was in 2002, and then but right before Shannon was murdered, he was in the process of being investigated for sex acts against 2 minor children, actually 3 minor children, and he was actually pled guilty to those charges. So here is a man that's living in here that has charges of basically telling you what kind of perpetrator they're looking for. And the reason I feel like they must have at least a weak profile, because it's got to be weak with that much time that passed, is because there was a paper about a McElroy, and he's also a perv who happened to be into child pornography that lived in there, same neighborhood, and the
In
thing
that neighborhood.
same neighborhood. They all 3 live in the same neighborhood. And he was brought in. They found the child pornography on his computer. And then, but in the affidavit for that case, it says that he was questioned in regards to the Shannon Paulk unsolved murder and asked to give a DNA sample. And he did. And in the affidavit for this other crime that he was found guilty of, it said that and that proved to be, he said that he did not have anything to do with what happened to Shannon Paulk, and after the DNA, it proved to be the case. And so that kind of tells me that they at least have a profile that they can rule out a suspect. But they can't rule in a suspect exclusively to where the exclusion of all others. So that, I think that's where they're stuck. And I think that's exactly why they have never come out and publicly, because they do on everyone else. You can find it somewhere, or you can call and ask, and they're going to tell you, except for those 2 men. And so I don't know if it is a combination of they just can't prove it, or they don't know which one it is, or one is a patsy for the other, My money is on, that root beer, man. It was a hot day.
Yeah.
She had already been up and down Metz, which is the court that he lived on. I've got her with witnesses putting her at all these different places. It's Occam's razor. Actually, they're both Occam's razor. They really are, if I'm being honest. And
just from what I've heard, the root beer guy, and even friends of mine or anyone who I've talked to that is sad that they had to go through something like that. There's always a freaking weird guy with candy or snacks in the stories I hear.
Yeah. And, and it could be one's covering for the other. I don't know. One knows something, but one's dead. So I don't know, but that's just kind of my thoughts on her case, and it remains unsolved. There was a lot of traction. We're coming up this August will be 20 years that it's been unsolved. If you want to hear even more anal account of her story, you can go to Cold Truth on my podcast. It's on Spreaker, Apple, Spotify. It starts out at episode 1, and then I think it picks back up again at episode 6.
Is the link to your Spreaker or your podcast in the description?
It sure is. It is in it.
Okay.
Well, I might not have added it quite yet. I think I
It
need
might
to
not have to be to the exact episode, just to your page, so I can check it out.
It is in it's on the last Global Unsolved. I just need to update the description of this when we end, which we need to end. We've been on here.
Yeah, this is a good podcast. This is my goal, to get longer and longer. This was a good one.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel like 2.5 hours.
I know, right? But I think it gets really tiring for people to like listen to. So it's like I feel bad. Like, how do you keep it interesting and not too short, but not too long, and not too like squirrel, that word. But it was super fun. And I think once it's like broken up into the different sections, and someone, what was it? Someone picked a name for what I should name that little.
Oh yeah,
global. I'm just gonna
parenting or
call it a
something.
bonus. Yeah, it was something like.
I seen something like Real Cold Chill or something. It was they were making cool names in there.
That's gonna be it. We'll just have like our little reminiscence time. Well, that's right, Karen. You guys are all still here, and you're amazing, and I appreciate you for putting up with my ramblings all the time. She is a pretty awesome lady, and she's always here, and that's pretty cool. And you have a lot of your followers that are always here and your shows. Amber, I think I see Marissa on yours sometimes too, but Marissa's usually here on mine, and Ivy and Lake and Crime.
They're really a good community. Like, putting content out so much easier, and makes me want to do it more, having people who like it.
Oh,
I love her ramblings too. The ramblings weren't bad, to be honest. Put it in a clip. Use it.
Yeah, you can use it. You're on it. You
sweet.
Use it.
Thanks. Yeah, get some good clips today.
Hey, Swifty girl. She's listening, so.
Good deal.
But yeah, it does get discouraging because you put so much work into it, but people like them, even if it's just 9, it makes it feel better. And I think my problem with getting any kind of like traction on YouTube is my mouth. It gets me in trouble.
Same here.
I'm probably not going to change that much. I may try to not cuss as much, but
that's my thing too. Yeah.
It's not, if it's not genuine, then I might as well be gone. So I guess I'm going to be like Gray, where I love his opening. It cracks me up every time I hear it. I'm like, mine would be a little different. Yeah. But if you don't like the truth, and you don't like someone that may be considered drama starter or calling out like grifters and scam artists, probably don't subscribe to me. Like, move on along. I'm not going to be you.
No, we're here for the whole cold truth, all of it.
So. Quiet about it sometimes, and it's like, you don't want to be indifferent. Indifference is super lame.
Yeah, but you got. Sometimes I can keep my mouth shut most of the time, but when I'm like you, if I decide to talk about something, it's usually pretty nuts or pretty over the top when I do it. Yeah, go all out when it does happen.
Probably that MMA or boxing you got left in you.
Yeah, a little feisty still, a little bit.
Hey, Wombat. Thanks for
listening. Too. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on today. It was awesome.
And thank you guys, everybody. Have a great Sunday. And we'll see you. I probably won't be back on for a while on my own channel. I'm going to join Graz. And I think I'm going to be, oh, my doggies are mad. I'm going to be joining True Crime Recliner soon, which I'm pumped about. I grew up painting and art. So like, I want to pick his brain about like the way his brain thinks about that stuff. So that's exciting.
That'll
With
be a
Who's Your
good one.
Cold Cases, I'm going to be on Who's Your Cold Cases on the 18th, and then you on the 17th. So I'm just going to kind of enjoy myself, and I got some surgeries coming up, so I might not be back on with my channel for a while, but I love jumping on other people's. It's so fun. So with that, y'all have a good one. Thank you, Graz. You're awesome.
Bye, guys. You too. See you guys.